Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex across the pond in Germany. We're going to jump into the usual suspects, of course, the market and the Goodfellas project with everything that's going on there. We've got quite a bit to actually drop on you guys today. So stay tuned as we do that. But first, let's check in and see how Alex is doing, man. What's going on over there?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. I remember waking up very early today and seeing I actually got notifications. Bitcoin reached a new all-time high. It was at around 105, I think, and I was kind of surprised. Bitcoin dominance rising again. Altcoins still struggle to keep up, but we all know that altcoins usually follow Bitcoin. I'm not sure. Do you know if cycle-wise Ethereum should have had his all-time high already, or is it fine if it happens in January or February?
I don't know. I think we're nowhere near an ETH all-time high, so it's definitely late. The general cycle, if you look at alts, it basically follows the peak of Bitcoin by a couple weeks. For whatever reason, the money rolls from Bitcoin into alts. And, who knows if that's going to be true this time around. But, yeah, we're nowhere near an ETH all-time high yet. We got a long way to go, my friend.
Absolutely. And we spoke about it before, but, when you believe in the cycles, you probably would have to believe that every single coin is going to correct, like probably in 2026. Do you believe Bitcoin going down, correcting 80%? Again and offering great buying opportunities?
There's really no way of knowing. I think what's going to happen is as we continue to mature, the volatility is going to continue to shake out of the market. In other words, people will start to get to this place where they understand the movement of the cycles are going to be a specific thing, and they will plan for that well ahead. So there'll probably be more people bouncing in and out at a stable level rather than at a super high level or a super low level. And I think that's just going to be the natural result of maturity and like more people buying and selling. And of course, with crypto being a global market, I mean, that makes it even more, sort of attractive as a volatility killing engine, in terms of if some major event happens in the US, it can tank the US stock market and maybe tank some of the stock markets that are associated with it. But if, Bitcoin is completely global and decentralized, and at least to whatever extent it can be, if there's some negative event in the US and it tanks the price here, well, it can't. It has to tank the price everywhere in the world. And so as more and more people continue to buy and understand the inflation protection and the long-term viability of the token, there'll be less and less and less sellers over time. So in those spaces where we have, rumor pushing tokens up or disaster pushing tokens down, I think that smooths out over time. And this is what cycle number 4 in terms of halvings. So, Bitcoin's been around now for going on 15 years. So I think it gets less and less. So maybe we don't see 80%. Maybe we see 60% this time or 50% or 40%. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how it shakes out. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I do agree, actually. I think that as well as we see that we have so many big players investing in Bitcoin right now. USA is obviously or claiming to build a Bitcoin reserve. I don't think we'll see that much of a correction. But at this point of the cycle right now, would you consider like buying a dip at any time? Like, would you, like, if it goes down to 80 again right now, would you buy again, or would you be like, okay, like I have a great average entry, I'll wait it out?
I mean, if something happened, and it was an acute drop like that, just very sharp drop, yeah, I mean, I'd probably, throw some, small amount of money at it, because I don't think it's peaked yet. I don't think we've seen that. That's still coming. So, there's the potential for that. But, if I'm being really honest, like the truth is I built my position in the bear market and I'm not really doing much buying right now. I'm doing a lot of waiting. So my strategy was to buy all through the bear and just wait. And, so I think my last buy was at like 60 something, So, I mean, all my positions are in the money, and I don't really want to mess with that too much right now because my strategy was to adhere to that. And so, over those last few years, I mean, I literally bought to the point where it hurt. You know, like I was spending every extra penny I could, putting it in there because I knew it could multiply. And so, pretty much all my buying is done. But I mean, if there's a really great opportunity to jump in and just, make a few extra dollars, I might consider it.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like that's the best way to do it. I mean, investing time is almost, or is probably over, unless you're Michael Saylor, obviously. But I mean, when you think about it, there is always the possibility that some sort of black swan event happens. I mean, the most obvious one is war. If there is a big war, we'll probably see numbers go down pretty quick. But another thing I read about just today is I don't know if you've ever read about it, but have you heard about quantum computing?
Oh yeah, for sure. What's going on there?
That's actually a possibility to. I don't even know the tech side, to be honest, but it's seen as a threat to Bitcoin to somehow be able to break the chain or whatever. And I read that there is a from I'm not sure who I think it's from Google, some sort of chip they invented, and I think they made that comparison saying that for like the strongest chip out there today, there was some sort of calculation, and that chip needed like tens of years to solve that, while the new chip is solved this calculation in like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And that is something that people were worried about, especially in the crypto community. Do you see the possibility something like that happens, that the blockchain is not as secure as we think?
Maybe in the infancy of the chain, that could have been a factor. But you have to understand, like, this just reflects people not understanding how the Bitcoin chain works, right? Because when you've built a block, just like at the highest level, when Bitcoin creates a block and issues a block reward, what it's basically saying is we've packaged up a bunch of transactions, and we're calling these transactions a block. And the computer that submits sort of the solution to that particular block is the computer or set of computers that earns the block reward, right? So every time there's a block presented, you've got, hundreds of thousands of computers around the world spinning up processor cycles, throwing solutions at it. It's basically guessing. It's like buying a lottery ticket. And they're throwing these solutions at the block. And only one of those solutions is going to finalize the block, and then that computer, of course, is issued the reward. So let's say you have a quantum computer that does it faster. Okay, well, it's still just issuing lottery tickets to a Bitcoin machine somewhere that has to then decide if those lottery tickets have solved the algorithm, have solved that particular block. And okay, let's say that the quantum computer does it faster. Well, what happens? Well, everyone who's mining just gets a quantum computer. And now they're just changing the rate of competition that much more, right? But it doesn't change the fact that all the previous blocks have already been solved. And if you wanted to undo the chain, you would literally have to travel back through all these different blocks and basically create a fork of all of those solutions and start stacking new blocks on that. So, I mean, if you think about how it works, it would be cool to have a quantum computer that works a lot faster because it would be more efficient, most likely, in a lot of cases. We're spending a lot of, energy and processor cycles to throw guesses at blocks. But, unless you can undo previous blocks or fork an existing block, then Bitcoin just keeps muddling right along. It doesn't really matter if the blocks are solved. Now, that's different from like it solving the seed phrase for your wallet. Like if you have a particular wallet address and you have a seed phrase attack, then maybe someone could snipe your wallet if they're using a quantum computer to try to guess at all the terms, something like that. But in terms of like undoing the chain, I don't think that's going to be an issue. And if the truth is, like, if someone for every technology that issues an attack, there's always a technology that counteracts it, Just like recently, there's all this hullabaloo about drones over New Jersey, which has been kind of funny. It's been like this big rumor, what's going on in New Jersey here in the U.S. And, so there's these drones flying, and people are like, well, you can't do anything with a drone. You can't shoot them down. That's illegal, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a company that invented a gun-shaped device that if you aim it at a drone, it takes it out of the sky, right? It does something to disrupt the drone's functionality. And the same thing will happen with, these attacks from quantum computers or what have you. There'll be some sort of, device or technology that's invented to counteract it. And then people will adopt it and we'll be onto this, we'll just be in a new era of, of wallet ownership type thing. I mean, that's basically how it's worked throughout history.
Yeah, I think the main threat that was seen was basically, the ability of these computers to kind of brute force your seed phrases. And if that was possible, it would definitely affect the price. But I mean, I like the comparison to lottery tickets, because obviously when you have more power, you can definitely you would probably have more lottery tickets to solve that, so your chance grows. But every now and then you do read about a case of someone mining on his old MacBook suddenly made like, I don't know, 20 grands, because his ticket was the one.
Yep.
So yeah, in the end, it's probably. I mean, the interesting part is that I read that even Satoshi back then kind of touched on that topic, and I mean, there are precautions already, and Bitcoin devs are working tirelessly, and as you said, technology evolves, and at that point, whenever that is happening, whenever that is possible, there will be precautions that this is not going to be a threat, most likely. And yeah, that's the good thing about Bitcoin, and that's like it's not as technical as many other chains, so it doesn't have offers too much space to for hacking it or something. So yeah, let's see. I mean, if I could travel in time, I'd love to go like 10 years forward and see how Bitcoin does. But in the end, you said it plenty of times. We're still like in the infancy. Bitcoin is, how old is it now? 15 years or something?
About 15, yeah.
And about 15. And if you see what it did like in these 15 years, especially when you compare it to other assets, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And I keep seeing these videos from 10 years ago, when people show how they bought Bitcoin back then, and then you feel like, oh, if I did this, if I did that, and but in the end, I think we are all lucky when we manage to kind of find out about Bitcoin around 2020 or like even earlier, because I feel like whoever understands the technology has a big advantage towards like everyone else,
Yeah, 100%. I've seen a lot of those posts lately too. Like someone on my Facebook feed, a pretty high level producer actually posted something like, one of my buddies told me that in 2011 I should buy Bitcoin, and I was thinking about putting $10,000 into Bitcoin, right? And he did the math, and he's like, today, if I had done that, I'd be sharing $102 million with, whoever his wife is. I forget her name, right? We'd be sitting here sharing $102 million. And I'm like, well, maybe, but maybe probably what would have happened is you would have spent your 10 grand and you would have seen it double, and you probably would have sold, or at least you would have sold a big portion of it. And if you didn't, when it went to 19,000 or 8,000, you probably would have sold a big portion of it, because that's such a massive, massive gain that you could probably never imagine it going to 100,000, right? And so, I mean, we like to play these games, but we forget all the off ramps along the way. It's fun to say, yeah, I could have had $102 million, but the truth is, you probably would have exited well before you would have created that, just because the gains before the 102 million would have been so incredibly huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be a big issue once altcoins go up. I mean, if you can pick any coin, let's pick Algorand for example. It's at 40 cents right now. Um, Maybe it goes to $1, maybe it goes to two, but you're most likely never going to hit the top. So the question is, like, I feel like when I read about these people, especially the ones who bought Bitcoin very early and they were like, hey, I should have kept it until now instead of buying at 3 and selling at 8. You can never like be happy. You can, if you think like that, you'll never be satisfied with your profits, because you feel like I could have made more. I should have done this, I should have waited, I should have sold. And I think you need that mindset that you know when to sell, or that you plan when to sell, and that you will be like satisfied with the result, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You never know. I mean, it's like I said, it's fun to play those games, but there's so many off ramps and opportunities to do other things. People just, it's funny. People take their timeline and then they erase everything between point A and point B and just say, "Oh, I would have had this." And it's like, no. What if one of your relatives, needed some money? Maybe you sold, some Bitcoin to start a business. Maybe there's all these different things you could have done with that particular gain, because obviously, if you're thinking about Bitcoin in 2011 and you're not one of the faithful, and you're sitting on 10,000 Bitcoins and you see the price double or triple or quadruple or even 10x, you're going to see that as such a massive, massive gain in that moment that it would be very, very difficult to just keep holding regardless. And people forget all of this stuff. They forget life. They forget all the circumstances. I mean, I'm a classic example. I bought 4 Bitcoin when it was $400, like in 2015 or 4. I don't even know. It was way back, right? And so I sold it when it was at $2,500 because I was like, well, hey, you know what? A 500% return is pretty damn good. I don't see this thing doing much better than that. Let me go ahead and exit, So, I mean, I've been in that place, So, I mean, that was $400,000. I could say, oh, well, you just screwed yourself out of $400,000. Or I could just say, well, no, actually, I made 500% on my investment, so I did pretty good. It's all perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because sometimes you read these, like, there is a mind game actually that people say, imagine you could like tell your, I don't know, like go back in time and tell, however, I don't know what age you were, doesn't matter, but to 2010, and tell like 3 words to your younger self. And even if it's not on X, even on Facebook, they are um, like buy Bitcoin, go buy Bitcoin, blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
And as you just said, if your younger self heard that, go buy Bitcoin in 2010, that it's never guaranteed that they would have hold. They probably wouldn't have hold. So even if they bought some Bitcoin back then, they probably would have sold earlier. And the only stories you read about people, making insane gains are the ones who actually forgot that they hold it,
Pretty
who
much,
kind of,
yeah.
I don't know, found some old hard drive with Bitcoins on it like 10 years later, and then they were surprised, oh, I got Bitcoin. And these are the stories of people who made money because they were not even aware of holding Bitcoin. I think you said it pretty right. People would have never hold it all the way up to 60K or even 20K. So yeah, no regrets, right?
Yeah, no regrets, right? Yeah, I mean that's 100% right. I mean Bitcoin, like if you bought Bitcoin in 2011 when it was whatever it was, $1, $5, and you spent, and you saw it go to what was the first run, like 8,000, and then you saw it go to 19,000. I mean, and you're sitting on, multiple 10-figure accounts. Like, come on, you're not sitting on that. You're not holding that. You're going to lock that into like USD or, you're going to lock it into something stable. So let's just be honest, like no one's straight lining from 2011 to, 20 to 2024 with 0 transaction volume. It just doesn't happen, right? I mean, and like you said, unless you just forgot you had it on a laptop somewhere.
Yeah, man. Do you what is actually the long-term plan of, players like MicroStrategy? I mean, they and also how is Bukele, like the president of El Salvador? He keeps, flexing his Bitcoin profits. Do you think these guys will ever sell, or will they keep it as some sort of treasury and reserve? And once Bitcoin becomes a legal currency, if that happens one day, we don't know. They just keep it until then.
Well, Bukele is using it to sort of back his economy. And his whole plan, I think, was to decouple El Salvador from the banking regime. And this gets into a lot of different topics that most people don't care about. But, if you're a small country and you are in a situation where your currency isn't really respected, or your economic system isn't very well respected, or you don't necessarily have good economic prospects, well, you find yourself in debt a lot. You find yourself in debt to other nations, whether through borrowing or through charity. And so he saw Bitcoin as a way to build a strategic reserve that he could rely on and sort of decouple El Salvador from having to be dependent on every other nation that's been supporting them over the years, whether it's through the banking system or charities or outreach or what have you, right? So his purpose is very different, and he already made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador, so that's already happening. For the U.S., it's a little bit different, and for other countries, it will be even more different. It will depend on how they implement things and how they sort of decide to run with the technology, what they do with it. There's multiple layers to it, but I think most people, MicroStrategy included, is using it as a defense against ridiculous government overspending, right? And the ridiculous government overspending that we've seen in the U.S. is literally off the charts. I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars wasted, overpaid on contracts, spent, blown, unaccounted for, sent to foreign nations, which of course all this money is just getting funneled into people's personal accounts, right? There's no doubt about that. And MicroStrategy saw this as a way of preserving their purchasing power while the US government continued to devalue the dollar. But their long-term strategy is to basically become a Bitcoin holding company or a Bitcoin bank. And they've been very public about this. And in fact, I think just today I saw a headline where they joined the NASDAQ 100, meaning one of the 100 favored companies in the NASDAQ. And they've been able to do this because they've onboarded Bitcoin as a treasury asset. It's basically turned them into a sort of hybrid company where you can get exposure to Bitcoin without having to buy Bitcoin through owning their stock. And we've seen their stock, do quite well. I think it was over $400 a share the last time I looked. And with $102 billion market cap, I mean, they're just doing incredible things with their Bitcoin reserves. And of course, the price running to the extent it has really bolstered, their value proposition. So that was their strategy. And I think Saylor actually did a hour-long or 90-minute talk on their long-term plans to become a Bitcoin bank/holding company. So I'd highly recommend everybody jump on Twitter and find, that little post that he did on his timeline, because it's pretty amazing what they have planned. And obviously with their track record of success, I wouldn't bet against them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely check that out. I'm currently reading that Van Eck predicts Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana will reach new all-time highs in 2025. And then it says Bitcoin 180, Ethereum 6,000, and Solana $500. Why do you think these institutions make these predictions? Just to attract new buyers? Because in the end, it somehow looks like these shady influencers making predictions.
That's exactly what it is. It's just that these influencers have first and last names and pictures. It's the same shit. It's the same shit, different day, or same shit, different platform, however you want to say it. And I mean, truly and realistically, these people, though, are accountable for what they say in that they have a public persona that can be attacked, or they work for an institution that can be attacked if their information is wrong. So, if you contrast that with what's happening in X or Twitter, for example, these anonymous morons who continue to tell you to buy, ME for whatever reason, they're not doing it because they have, any form of accountability or any form of like interest in seeing the token do well or seeing you do well. They're just doing it to gain status in the crowd. So, I mean, if these people who are publicly calling these tokens and these price ranges, if they get it wrong enough times, they lose their entire reputation. Like Jim Cramer, right? Like Jim Cramer is like the worst. Like he's made calls now for the last 2 decades, and he's always wrong for the most part. So like he's just become a meme, and nobody cares what he says. So it's really interesting to see how this stuff plays out. But I mean, a lot of these guys are smart, and they're using mathematical models that basically talk about stock to flow, like the amount or quantity of token versus the amount of interest versus the buying. And then also they're factoring in the fact that you've got public exposure coming on board and public awareness coming on board with the new administration. So, if Solana gets an ETF, then that can change the dynamic of who buys it and when and how long they hold it and what the structure of people's portfolios start to look like. So they're basing it on all those different factors, and everyone has a different little way of looking at it. I just try to look at some of those different things and kind of take the average of all of them. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. But when you mentioned these influencers, come to think of it, I feel like I think that's actually the worst part about X, that so many posts are just engagement farming. And I saw an influencer. I don't know, how was he called? I think it was Crypto Rover or something. And I saw that a post from him went pretty viral. And I saw that when I checked his account, his timeline, I saw that basically every week he tells people at least 3 times, altcoin season started right now. And then he makes predictions about Bitcoin, what it does now, that it goes crazy now. And all these engagement, like farming posts are terrible. And I'm not sure how we can get rid of that on X. I'm like, the whole platform is about engagement, one guy talking to another, having a conversation. But I feel like it definitely harms the crypto market that these people just keep making false statements, actually, like just try to get the most engagement. Because like, obviously, I'm not sure if it happened before, but X is rewarding engagement by paying out huge amounts of money, at least from what I see. But yeah, nothing we can do about it, right? I just wanted to complain a little bit.
No, I mean, there's nothing we really need to do about it, though, right? Like at the end of the day, I think Elon and his team are working to eliminate some of that stuff. They've started changing the algorithm, and at the end of the day, they will be successful, in terms of what they can sort of screen out and alter. I mean, I know they dropped an algorithm update just like a week or two ago, and my engagement like dipped really, really bad. I lost like 100 followers, which I'm assuming were just, like bots or something. And so, I mean, they're doing what they can, I think, to start weeding out some of the noise and the nonsense. Community notes is really good as well. It's just that right now, again, it's just like Hard Hat Chad, the guy who did the Solana mining, for what's it called? The OR token. He just posted, he's like, cryptocurrencies are Austrian economics applied. And I'm like, well, they could be, but right now it's just human psychology applied, right? And right now, when someone makes some fantastic claim or some ridiculous nonsensical claim, the desire to not miss that is so great. Like the human psychology of that takes over, and people just do irrational things. And so that's what's running this market right now. And as long as that runs the market, then you will see these types of people who give you what you want, whether it's good for you or not. or you're going to see them continue to get engagement. You're going to see them continue to influence things. But that's the type of thing that falls away over time. And it's also an indication of where we are in the growth of the market. So I'm seeing more people, be more level-headed and understand that they need to slow down and really think. But it's still a very small percentage. And as long as more shit continues to crop up, whether it's a chain or a project, just random stuff popping up left and right, and, people building support groups to push the stuff out, whether it's on X or, whatever the case may be, as long as you see that psychology at play, you're going to continue to have this type of interaction. So we'll see. I mean, I think it just comes down to being so far away from maturity that it's not even funny, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate it, man. I feel like, you just need to reach a certain amount of followers and you can play that game over and over again. And, people will like, look, I remember when April went like in our Discord and dropped a message, and she was like, why do these people like keep asking for retweets and dropping their I'm not sure if it was that kind of catch, but dropping their soul wallets and stuff like that. And I told her, like, it's mainly for engagement farming. They usually do never show proof of or evidence of actually giving something away. But it's crazy, and it's sad that these are the people, because even when I jump into like little crypto communities from cryptocurrencies, they're also like, okay, we started our influencer marketing. It feels like that's the only channel people in this space use, and obviously for NFTs as well. I mean, we get offers every single day, and there are projects out there who actually use these services. So yeah, I feel like in the end it's never genuine interest from people, especially when it's influencers, because what they usually get is either NFTs or a payment for shilling, for telling people to invest in something, or advise people to do so. So I'm not sure, man. That's not how traditional markets work. But I'm like, I never really found a solution for that. How can we get rid of it? Because in the end, these people have, I don't want to say too much power, but their influence on the markets is definitely too high, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is that it is more or less how traditional markets work, but traditional markets have been regulated to the point where you can actually put some sort of brakes on it, right? Like the crypto meme market, for example, is the worst in my opinion. I mean, NFT projects really, they gave Web3 a bad name in a lot of ways, but meme tokens took the bad name to a whole nother level. And all you've seen in these projects where it's like memeified nonsense or these shitty NFT projects is you've seen people basically insider trade. It's like 8 or 10 people who are on the same, chat, whether it's Telegram or Discord or whatever. They get together and they decide they're going to push the market in one way or another. And then all they do is they dump on new buyers. That's all they fucking do, whether it's NFTs or meme tokens. And so when you don't know the founders and they're not communicating with you and you're not hearing them speak on spaces or they're not recording podcasts or not identifying themselves in some way, you're always exposing yourself to risk. And in the traditional markets, when people did this, they realized how negative it could be because you could have a few people front running the market at all times and always making profits at the expense of people who were getting that information secondhand or third hand or next week. And so, there are laws against that. Like Michael Saylor, for example, even though he owns MicroStrategy, he can't get on X and say, hey, MicroStrategy's going to 500, you should buy. He cannot do that. Like, it's illegal, right? And he certainly can't do it privately to the board members and tell them when they should buy and when they should sell. You cannot do that. It's completely unethical and illegal. And because they're known entities and known personas, they can be sued either criminally or civilly by anyone who's harmed in that fashion. So crypto, nowhere near, nowhere near having any sorts of guardrails or brakes. And the truth is, like, I don't really mind the fact that it's the Wild West, because I think people, you get what you earn. Like, if you do stupid shit, you should earn stupid shit prizes. And right now people are learning the hard way that they've done stupid things. And so they're going to win stupid prizes. And hopefully if you win enough stupid prizes, you start to get smarter. Like, that's the goal. Because when we start bringing in third parties to assign guardrails and, tell you how to trade and tell you what to hold, and like they basically take all the creativity out of the market, then they're basically trading for you. And that's not what we want. We don't want that. So, I mean, on some level, being an ethical project is almost like it's almost like you're putting the brakes on yourself, because you don't want to lie to people and tell them the wrong thing, because you know that if you hired an influencer and did all this other stuff that you could get further faster. But in the end, you don't have the type of people that you want. You have the type of people who whine and moan and complain and just dump your stuff or trade your stuff. And if you're a long-term, collector, or if you're looking for a long-term project and you're a long-term collector, then that's not what you're after. So you run off all the good people. So this is the challenge that projects like ours face, where we have to sift and sort through the market to find the few good people who are committed to long-term collecting or holding and acquiring beautiful things or focusing on quality. And until we get to that place where we've got some maturity amongst people who can come in, then we're going to continue to have this nonsense. But, the truth is, like, hopefully, I mean, my hope is, and it hasn't come to pass yet, is that, enough people win enough stupid prizes that they learn to get a little bit smarter. I mean, that's how life works, like you don't stick a fork, in the electric outlet, unless you want to get shocked, you don't do that.
You're actually spot on, because I actually had the same conversation with someone, and he was like, like regarding the influencers and stuff, and he was like, we do have that, like, in the real world. Look at all these Instagram influencers. They basically do the same. They just try to, like, they get a lipstick, they get some money, and then they try to sell it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, like, yeah, but the difference is that influencer is not going to dump on you. Like, he does not need you. He does not need you to be his exit liquidity.
Right.
And as you just explained it pretty good, that these people just promote these projects after they bought, and then they just dump on you and make money. And in terms of legality, I always wondered how pump fun, for example, can be legal, because I thought providing or like dropping a financial asset should require more than just connecting your Solana wallet and enter some sort of funny name. So I never knew how that actually worked, but everything seems to be possible as long as you as you call it, meme coin. There are no laws on meme coins, as it looks like.
Yeah, and Pump.Fun is a perfect example, because more and more countries have initiated the act of shutting them down. Whether it's the UK or whether it's the FCA, whatever, that more and more of this type of stuff that's preying on human psychology and fear and lack and scarcity is basically perpetuating the idea that Web3 is a casino. I think you mentioned that earlier. And, if people can't control themselves, this is what I keep telling founders on every space I go into. Like, if people can't control themselves, or, starting with the founder and going all the way through to the buyers and the community and the collectors, like if the founders can't be ethical, then you're not going to draw in ethical people. And what's going to happen is regulators are going to force themselves on the market. So my call to action to everyone out there in the space, especially if you're a creator, is to do good things of high quality and do it with morals and ethics that you would like to see executed in your own world. And if you do that, we won't need regulators. The problem is, like, that human greed, that human fear of missing out, that FOMO constantly takes over, and people forget themselves. And the next thing you know, they make bad decisions. Like Pump.Fun, like, that whole website is a bad decision. And so I've never used it. I will never use it. I will never support it. and I'm not going to buy anything from it. So
I mean, it feels like, governments kind of struggle to keep up with all the new stuff popping up in the space. I mean, for example, we in the European Union have a new regulation for crypto coming in 2025, actually in like on the 31st of 2024, which basically says that whenever you whenever you make a transaction that is worth over $1,000, like on an exchange, it gets reported to the tax office. And this sucks, obviously, but it still took them so long to come up with any sort of regulation for that. So in the end, we have so many new platforms launching every week, and even for like NFT projects, launching their own coins, I have no idea about the regulations. I'm not sure if we could just take our AU and list it on some sort of decentralized exchange for and for people to buy it. I don't know, man. Are you smarter?
probably not. I'm not too smart, to be honest with you. I mean, at the end of the day, like these regulations are just window dressing. Like if I were in the UK and I wanted to trade and not have my $1,000 transaction tracked, I just move my money to a non-custodial wallet, and I trade within that wallet. And so until that money comes back into my account, they still can't track it. And if I set up a VPN and I want to do business in another country, I can do that. So I mean, this is just all window dressing. It doesn't do anything but add more regulation to the legitimate businesses. This is the problem with regulation.
Yeah, I think as long as you keep everything in crypto, you will not struggle, with keeping your information. But I think it's more or less for the people, just buying, I don't know, any sort of coin and selling it after 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and making like a couple $1,000 and cashing out.
Yeah.
Today probably no one is ever going to notice, but yeah, I think that's for these kind of people.
Yeah, and this is where the importance of stable coins comes into play. Your Tether, like your USDT, your USDC. If you're trading in a non-custodial wallet and you don't want to convert to cash, you convert to a stable token and you sit on that. And until you move that back into a standard financial rail, you're fine, right? And so if you're trading on like pump.fun and you pick up some shitbag token that's, destined for zero, but you want to dump on your friends and make 10 grand, okay, you make your 10 grand. But now what do you do with it? You can't necessarily trade it on any major exchange. So you have to turn it into something that turns into something else, that turns into something else, that turns into something else, that finally turns into something that's almost worth being on an exchange that you can finally trade for USDC or USDT, because a lot of these tokens are not tradable outside very small, tiny markets. So there's risk there as well.
Yeah,
And that's why I don't play with these things.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, like if you're messing around with tokens that you can convert to a stable token, you're probably doing okay. Because, at the end of the day, like, USDC and USDT are tied to pretty large companies who have to actually sit on funds to make sure that their stable tokens are worth something and they're auditable, So I don't play with that stuff, and I wish other people wouldn't, but that FOMO kicks in and psychology kicks in and people want to do what they want to do because they think they can make some money. But again, a lot of this is younger people who haven't really thought it through, and until you think it through, you don't really see the damage that you're doing. But it is indeed damage to participate in these markets for sure.
Yeah, I just remember that 8-year-old or however I don't know what age he was, or 11 or 12 or whatever, who made like 30 grand on Pump Fun,
Yeah. So
and basically became a meme. That was funny, but I actually wondered how he got that money out. I think he spent it on some sort of vouchers.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, in the end, you can even, like, for example, I got a credit card where I can send USDT to, and basically pay with it in every store and repay everything with USDT. So it never has to like go through an exchange anyway. But in the end, I mean, in Germany we are lucky, at least like if we hold for over a year, we are not taxed at all. But I'm not sure how it's in other countries. But that's going to change as well, probably.
Yeah, if a politician can get their hands on you, they're going to. In the States, like there's two different types of taxation in terms of investment income. There's long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains. And so if you hold for a year or longer, you're taxed at long-term capital gains, which is usually less, like 20 to 25%. And if you hold for short-term, it's just taxed as regular income. So, it's different here. It's different in Canada, same thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But 25% gone kind of hurts as well.
Yeah, of course. It's crazy.
It is
It's crazy. I mean, fact that you would have
Trump
to.
Didn't Trump announce that there will be some sort of I'm not sure what he said, but something like a historic tax cuts or something?
Well, every politician says that, but we'll see what happens because
true.
They have to pass the law in Congress, and who knows what's going to happen there. Even though the Republicans control, there's always somebody who wants to sort of not participate with or not go with the particular party that they're in. There's always a reason.
Yeah, true. Let's jump a little bit into the NFT world, and why don't we kick it off with staking? I know people have been waiting for a solid solution for to stake their Goodfellas, and unfortunately, many people had trouble using Floppy Labs. So give us a little update on that.
Yeah, for sure. So Floppy Labs, basically, their code broke when when Metaplex issued resize directives to all of their NFTs. So they basically changed the shape of the metadata that's associated with your NFT, and Floppy's contract can't handle that. So they basically have to reprogram this contract to stake and release tokens properly, and they haven't done that.
What I like, sorry to interrupt you, but I read that post from them, and to me, to be honest, it kind of like they framed it somehow as if there is a possibility that they're not able to do it. Like,
Yeah, I think what he was trying to communicate there is that, well, I mean, I've had some conversations with him that I haven't, like shared all the details with because we're just going back and forth on DMs. But basically, the one guy that's still responsive and helping to the best of his ability, his handle is like SCY7ALE. I don't know how you pronounce that, scale or whatever. His partner is the one who does the development work, and his partner is basically taken up a role in an AI project, and he's been devoting all his time to that, and he's got a family and all the rest of it. And so he hasn't wanted to work on this other project at all. He hasn't wanted to improve or update Floppy Labs. And so because of that, I think, the other guy is sort of hedging his bets, that he's going to get him to move in some way, shape, or form in the near future, right? But ultimately, I think he knows he has to if the company's going to survive, because Metaplex is going to resize all their NFTs by default in the next couple months. So if you haven't resized, they're going to force the resize, and then they're going to take all the extra rent money for themselves. So, at the end of the day, they have to either update the code or they have to go away. That's it. That's their only two options. And so do they really want to alienate the entire market? Maybe. It's certainly a possibility. I've seen, dumber things happening in the space, but the one guy really cares. I've never spoken to the dev. I don't know if he is a solid individual or not, but I'm assuming he is, because the one guy is a pretty solid individual, and I've actually spoken to him live and heard him speak, and so I know he's a real boy, right? And at the end of the day, I think that he'll be able to pressure his partner to get the work done. Now, I know that the outlook looks bleak, but at the end of the day, we'll figure out a way to work around it, even if Floppy Labs decides to just hang up their cleats and never play the game again. I'll figure out a workaround. whether that's issuing new metadata or whatever the case may be. I'll figure it out. And there's always a way around this type of stuff. So I don't want anyone to worry who's got anything staked with Floppy Labs from us, because we'll make it right one way or another. You will not lose. I promise you that. If there's any expense incurred, I'll incur it. I'll pay it out of my own pocket because I recommended them in the first place. So I'm not even worried about that. But for those of you guys who, are unstaking and getting fees, be sure and reach out to the guy Scale inside the Floppy Discord, and he'll refund your fees, because we've already made an agreement to where we can unstake for free whenever that happens. So what we're doing is we're basically... Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, we'll probably we'll drop some more instructions for that in the Discord, to reach out to him and get your fees back.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. And so what we want to do, and what I've learned over the past few weeks in dealing with the staking thing, is that almost no one owns the code that runs their staking platforms. And I know this because I spoke to a couple different devs and they didn't want to give me the code. Okay, so even if your favorite project has their own proprietary website where staking is occurring, chances are that code lives on the dev's website, which is why you've seen so many projects say, oh, we've had a problem with the updates on the staking and we don't know when it's going to be. The dev has the keys or the dev has access to the server, whatever the case may be. We don't want to be a party to that type of development work at all, and we want to provide a high level experience. So the deal that I made with our dev was, I will pay you extra to make sure that we have a copy of the code. Okay. So we're paying a big chunk of change extra to get a copy of the code installed on our servers that we can own and control. And when we do this, no matter what happens in the future with staking, me or you or whomever we've assigned, access to the server can go in and update the code or hire someone to fix the code for us, so our people are never screwed or stranded or, feeling like, they're stuck again. I want to make sure that never happens again. Right? So that's the whole point of that. And we're at a point right now where we tested the code over the weekend. I was on Discord with a developer, and we went back and forth and ran some test transactions, and everything seems to be working good. So we're down to this point now where we just have to finalize it. And that's where we're at.
And you forgot, we got a pretty good RPC node.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, more money, right? More money out the door. Yeah, so RPC nodes are what allow you to connect to blockchains, for those of you guys who are, unfamiliar. And it's a pretty transaction intense thing. And so if you do a free one, which is what most people do, you get rate limited very quickly. And all of a sudden your staking doesn't work, which I think is what Floppy was doing initially. They weren't paying for their RPC, and so we were getting rate limited. But I didn't know how to check for that then, and now I know how to check for it, so I can verify. But so what we did was we paid up to get a development server API access, and that's where we're at right now. And it's going to run us about $50 a month or $600 a year to run these nodes. And we'll definitely not be in that space where any of our people will have to be dependent upon, rate limits or developers or any of the rest of it, because the whole goal is to make sure that everyone has a good UI, a good user experience within the UI. I got tongue-tied there.
But what's the reason he wanted to keep the code? Is it like, if you have it now, would you be able to basically copy it again and sell it, just in theory?
Of course. I mean, once you have access to the source, then you can do whatever you want to with the source. And whether that's, copying it, duplicating it, selling it, whatever, you can do that.
But didn't he, has he never done a staking page before? Maybe it was just copy paste as well.
No, he actually has, he's actually the dev for several different projects. And so he's done quite a few different staking pages. And I forget his name. He goes by Seventh Legend, but I forget his real name. It's on the contract.
Yeah. I think I saw him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, he's been there, done that. And he's part of a development collective. So he's been doing this, and it's part of his real day job. So, I have his name on a contract where I have recourse in case anything goes wrong, which is another thing that a lot of projects don't do. But we're in a spot right now where everything's been tested and everything's being uploaded, and we just need to move it over to the live, switch it over to the live side of things. So hopefully we have that in the next few days. Just depends on his schedule because, again, he has a real job outside of this.
Yeah, man. I think I read from some other artist. Who was it? I think you made a comment on that. Hazel. I think it was Hazel who was like, "Hey, this is basically my first time setting up a real like contract or proposal or whatever for an NFT collection." And when I saw that, I felt like, finally, man, like, should be better if more artists start working like that. And we've done that from the very beginning, and seems like we are first movers here again.
Yeah, we've done a lot of innovation. We probably won't get credit for it until, like years and years and years. But from batch mints to just taking care of people to doing belly to belly sales to, like owning everything that we put forth, whether it's IP rights or code. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're doing that people don't appreciate yet, but will. And so hopefully we're doing the Wayne Gretzky thing where we're skating to where the puck's gonna be, We'll see at the end. We'll see if in the end we're rewarded. I think we will be, but you never know. Sometimes markets can be irrational.
Absolutely. Okay, so next topic. Saturday is going to be a pretty interesting day for us as well. And for those of you guys who listened to the spaces we had with Jilly, it was less spaces. You guys know that we will have an artist incubator drop on Saturday, the 21st. If you haven't listened to the spaces yet, I highly recommend to do that, because I never had any sort of conversation with Jilly about the Fame Ladies or their society and what they do. And when I was on Spaces listening to her, I was highly impressed, and I was especially impressed by the passion she had for her project. And I mean, at some point, she even got very emotional when she recapped on how that project was founded and all the things that happened throughout their journey. And when I see that, I mean, I really love every single artist we had on the artist incubator, and it definitely, like working with these kind of people definitely makes it easier for me to choose new artists, because you can definitely see a difference between passionate artists and people who just want to make a quick buck. And as I said, Jilly is great. Her project is great. You can definitely check it out if you want. And we even had Serena on the call as well, who seems to be a girlfriend from Jilly. I'm not sure, but she was talking about Jilly as well, and she loves what she does. And I mean, it's great to see people appreciating one and another. And I think having Jilly as our next artist incubator artist was definitely a great choice. Kudos to you, actually. You arranged that, and the piece is awesome, man. She kind of explained how she creates pieces. I think she called it hybrid AI piece.
Mm-hmm.
And also for people who wonder if AI is art or not, you guys should definitely listen to that podcast, to that spaces as well, because I loved her take on that. And yeah, man, let's not spoil anything, but like I said, if you like the Fame Society pieces, you're going to love the AI piece we are about to drop. And yeah, request your mint pass if you haven't done so yet. Anything you want to add to Jilly, Jason?
No, not really. Just pay attention this week because we're going to be dropping on a Saturday, which we haven't done in a while. Or I don't know if we've ever done a Saturday, but we're doing a Saturday drop. Well, no, I think we have, but it's been a long time. So it's not Friday this week. It's Saturday. We're keeping with the 21s theme. And it should be good times. The piece is fantastic. And you definitely want to hold a piece of history in that Fame Ladies were the very first female PFP project ever. So this is your chance to be a part of that.
Exactly. And yeah, mint time is going to be 6 p.m. UTC. Mint price is most likely going to be 0.21 Sol. And I think that's it.
Sounds
Are
good,
we
man.
good?
I
Do
think we're
we?
good. Are you good?
I'm good. I think I just tried to think if we've forgotten anything, but I think no. I think that's great, and I'm looking forward to the drop. We'll have spaces on Friday before that drop, so we can definitely talk about that again. And yeah, like I said, get your mint pass. I feel like there are a lot of fans of Jilly's art. I saw that she got a lot of like yeah a lot of support from her people, and we saw that a lot of mint passes were minted. So make sure to be on time, and yeah, I think and hope everyone who wants a piece will get one. And I feel like I finally deserve a number 21. I might give it away right after, but I should be lucky enough to get it once. I know you got it like twice already, right?
Well, I think I got one for sure. I think Pierre got
Oh,
a
okay.
couple, and then STC's gotten a couple too. So, but I definitely got one. I can't remember for sure.
Okay. So yeah, it's another lottery on Saturday. But as I said, I hope everyone gets the number he wants. And if not, feel free to drop by the Discord and chat with us. We are all willing to help, willing to trade. And yeah, this should be it for today. Thank you everyone for listening again. I think yeah, a lot of stuff happened the past week, and a lot of stuff is happening on the upcoming week. Let's see what the markets do. And I see you guys next week on the Midmap podcast. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.